All right, tonight, one of our news inserts, 3 women killed in a drive-by shooting outside a school while an ANC meeting was underway. So the killings continue in KwaZulu-Natal. KwaZulu-Natal has been a hotbed for political murders. In June, the police minister had said that political killings were on the decrease thanks to the work of an inter-ministerial committee for political killings. There were 14 murders in 2019 and 2020 and only 4 in the first half of this year. But of course, there are concerns that political killings will rise as the local government elections draw near. To discuss, we're joined now by the editor-in-chief of New Frame, that's Richard Pithouse. Mr. Pithouse, thank you for being with us. So police are saying the motives are unclear. Of course, it's always unclear in the beginning, but this latest drive-by shooting, other recent murders, are you thinking politics may be at play?
Look, I don't have any particular knowledge about the latest shooting, but what we do know is that the political killings in that part of the country are overwhelmingly, although not exclusively, intra-ANC killings. And we also know that they are not about ideology. Those days are long gone. They're about access to money and power. So, the best guess is that this would be along those lines, because that is what is generally happening. Of course, we'd have to wait for full information to be clear about this particular incident.
Yeah. Well, it is always said that politics is about the struggle for power and for resources or money, like you say. In KwaZulu-Natal, it seems to be this fight to the death. Just give us some of the circumstances that you've looked at that have led to KwaZulu-Natal being this hotbed for political murders.
Look, the assassinations that I've looked at are not the intra-ANC assassinations. I've looked at cases where grassroots activists have been assassinated. Unfortunately, there are many of those. And the reason for that, the motivation for that, is largely when people oppose corruption or attempts to sort of capture development for personal enrichment. That's overwhelmingly when people get killed. It's when you get in the way of the material interests of what has been widely understood for a long time by grassroots activists to be essentially a criminal political class.
And I mean, so you're saying you're not looking at mostly the ANC murders, but a lot of it has been intra-ANC killing. Is that a fair statement? Because you have the ANC controlling a lot of the resources in that province.
Yes, I mean, as I said at the outset, it's very clear that the vast majority of killings are intra-ANC. There are some killings between different political parties, organizations like NUMSA, the Metal Workers Union, the South African Communist Party, and Abahlali Basimjondolo, which is a very strong social movement in Durban in particular, have all been had their members subject to assassination. But primarily it's intra-ANC.
Yeah. Right now, there's huge contention about this candidate list for the local government elections. We've seen ANC branches marching, saying that candidates have been imposed on them. So this is about ward councillors. Do you believe, well, tell us, I mean, how powerful are those positions? Is this, again, possibly sometimes people wanting to move out their rival for this position, which has specific benefits?
Look, being a ward councillor is a position of considerable power and considerable opportunity to accumulate more power and wealth through allocating tenders or accessing tenders, and through things like allocating access to state development. Like, if there's a housing development, it's about who gets to build the houses, who gets to provide the security for the building site, who provides the materials, and then ultimately who gets access to those houses. That is corrupt from start to finish, that whole process. Ward councillors can make money, and very often at the local level, the political assassinations come from ward councillors or the people around them, their ward committees or the BECs or the local party structures, which are usually very similar. I mean, there are, in fact, at the moment, 2 former ANC ward councillors in prison after having been convicted of an assassination.
Yeah.
And, it's just, look, in certain parts of a city like Durban, not everywhere, things will go down very differently in a place like Kwandangezi, say, to a place like Hillcrest. But it's normal for a ward councillor to show up at a meeting with 5 or 6 men bristling with guns. The whole way in which politics is presented and organized is saturated with violence and the threat of violence. We're in a situation that's very much like, say, Central America. Ward councillors often run their wards like fiefdoms. If you organize a meeting independently of the ward councillor in Durban, it's completely normal to get a death threat as a response, not an invitation to a discussion, a death threat. And the thing is, grassroots activists have been saying this for a long time, well more than 10 years. But middle-class society just ignores it because it's not their experience. And middle-class society in South Africa really just doesn't care about impoverished black people. And what's happened is that this has been allowed to fester there. And because it's been allowed to fester there, it's steadily moving out of those spaces where oppressed people are confined to.
Yeah.
And it's moving into elite spaces. And, we saw recently an assassination of a very senior civil servant. So we're on a road to looking very much like a country like Mexico.
So what you're describing is quite incredible. In your reporting, have you come across answers? I mean, the police minister at one stage was saying they had gains because they were looking at people who had unlicensed firearms and then following the guns, following the ammunition. I don't know if that approach worked or if you've seen anything that holds promise.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a way of deflecting from the real issue. If you want to get a gun and you want to kill someone, you can get a gun and you can kill someone. It's not about the availability of the ammunition. It's about how normalized violence, including murder, is as a way of resolving political disputes. I mean, in Durban, being an assassin is a job. The assassins, the Izinkabi, are well known. I mean, in a community, people know who they are. It's not a secret. They sometimes conduct their business fairly openly. I think the minister is being disingenuous and just trying to deflect a deep political issue that's deeply entrenched in the fabric of politics in that part of the country into some kind of technical thing. The fix is not technical. Of course, you don't want, ammunition and guns moving around freely. That must be dealt with. But what really needs to happen is that impunity for politically connected people needs to stop. And the fact of the matter is that, generally speaking, in a city like Durban, the police do not act to enforce the law. They act according to the instructions given to them by the local political elites. So if the local, say, ward councillor or their committee doesn't like a grassroots activist, they'll just instruct the police to have that person arrested on, totally spurious charges. Those people may spend time in prison awaiting trial and may be tortured in the local police station. These are ordinary things. There's no technocratic solution to these things in terms of, say, dealing with theft of bullets. It's a political problem that ultimately has to be addressed politically. And right now, no one has the political will to do that. It sounds pessimistic, but we need to confront reality if we're going to address it.
Yeah. Wow, what an awful picture you've painted, but thank you for giving us some insight into what is going on in that province. A huge concern that the murder rate will rise further because of the contestation ahead of the local government elections. That was Editor-in-Chief of New Frame, Richard Pithouse. We take a short break, lots more to come on The Full View.